Iguodala. Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. Curry, one-on-one. Irving puts it up. It's good. Kyrie Irving from downtown. The three, steps back, crossover, puts up a three. Rebound James. Second. It's over. It's over. Cleveland is a city of champions once again. The Cavaliers are NBA champions.
Cleveland, this is for you.
Good day, Cavs fans, and welcome to another installment of The Block, The Shot, The Stop, a Cleveland Cavaliers podcast brought to you by the wonderful people over at Blue Wire Pods. I am Tim Daniel. He is Kevin Lynch. Thank you for being patient with us as these West Coast games, as fathers and people with day jobs, are kicking our ass, but we are here today still. And Kevin, unfortunately, we were talking about a 3-game losing streak from the Cavaliers. They took a 123-119 loss last night to the Sacramento Kings at the Golden One Center, and it was a bit of a frustrating game. There's a few things I want to get to, but before I get into my spiel, real quick, from whether you watch, I know you probably like me, watched the full condensed game. We watched all possessions because it was on late at night last night. But what was kind of your big takeaway from the Kings game?
Two. I'll give you two. One, awful defense in the second half. As bad a defense as I've seen the Cavs play in a long time. The other was they kind of fell apart every time Evan Mobley wasn't in the game.
Yeah. My big one was going to be like, why did they quit going to Evan Mobley down the stretch? Because he was he was so good last night. Yeah,
let's just jump in and talk about Evan, because I do think that was the key to the game. And the key to the game, I wrote down from in less than 6 minutes of basketball. So last 3 minutes of the third quarter, first 3 minutes of the fourth quarter, Evan Mobley scored 20 points on perfect shooting. And right about then, Kenny took him out, but that's always when he takes it. He always takes him out the middle of the fourth quarter to bring him in for the last, 3, 4, 5 minutes fresh. Right. Mm-hmm. If I have a criticism of Kenny last night, I think it was you maybe could have deviated from the regular rotation a little bit.
Yes.
Particularly with Garland not playing. So if Garland's not playing and then you continue to sit Donovan and Evan at the same time, that's a good portion of your playmaking all not available, not on the court, right? So I think last night they could have mixed and matched Donovan and Evan a little bit more, especially since they were really the two that had it going offensively, right. Only kept one of them on the court the majority, if not all the time, especially in the fourth quarter. And we'll talk about Evan in a very positive light because it was one of his best games of the season and everything. Yeah. But that was the frustration, is that it felt like they kind of fell apart with when he went to the bench, especially in the second half. And then the second half defense was just bad. And when I say bad, I have some numbers to back that up, as I know you do. They gave up 76 points in the second half. And 68% shooting to a team that is pretty middle of the road offensively. And that's a frustrating way to lose. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if you watch Malik Monk in that game, he was just in pick and roll basically the whole game. It was just high screen pick and roll, and he was just getting to the rim with no issues. Help defense looked like it was not a thing for the Cavs last night, which, they're pretty great defensive team most of the year. I'll share the numbers. I have the numbers to share that, obviously, but they flat out just kind of played a lot of isolation defense the second night in a row. The Clippers did the same thing with Kawhi and James Harden on Monday night. And it was a lot of same things, like no help defense, no, just like, everything was in isolation. I thought Dean Wade held his own against DeMar DeRozan, but DeMar DeRozan's so good in the mid range that sometimes it's just impossible to stop him when he gets going. And he had some really, really good shots he made last night, but those don't upset me. It's you're trying to fight back in the game. You all of a sudden, like, Sacramento takes their lead in the third quarter, and Keegan Murray sitting by himself and hits a three at the elbow. And and it's like, why? Where are you? And it's the just inability to grab a defensive rebound and stop Sacramento from getting second chance shots. That's the stuff where I was really frustrated with them last night. Offensively, I didn't really have an issue with it last night. Some guys didn't hit the normal shots, like you said. Obviously, your offense is going to take a step back when Darius Garland's out. Mobley and Mitchell were great. I thought I thought Max Strus was good. I thought Dean Wade was pretty good. But they didn't get a ton from the bench. DeAndre Hunter didn't have one of his best shooting games. Sam Merrill took no shots in 12 minutes. He did 4 assists. I'll take that. But just a wonky performance from the bench last night.
It was. And to your first point about the threes, I noticed the same thing. The Kings were getting such better looks shooting the basketball than the Cavs were. I agree with you. I think the Cavs had a pretty good offensive game. I mean, they averaged 121 points and change. They scored 119. They're almost right at their shooting averages. So in a lot of ways, you could say they played a Cavs offensive game, like right to their numbers, all that kind of stuff. The problem was definitely on the defensive end, and definitely, the second half in particular. I agree with you. I actually liked Dean Wade's game last night. It was one of his better shooting nights in a while. Hit 4 threes. But it was the quality of looks. Like the Kings are bottom 10 in the NBA in 3-point shooting, and they 8 for 15 from the second half. And that can be for 2 reasons. One, they're just shooting over their heads, and you can say it's a little bit true. But the other thing is they're getting wide open looks, and NBA players with wide open looks hit those shots a good majority of the time.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, to put in context, so I'm not gonna go through the whole thing, but this is a sample of how the Kings shot from 3 last night. As a team, they're 46%. Malik Monk 4 of 7, Keon Ellis 3 of 4, Keegan Murray 3 of 7, Devin Carter 2 of 6. Devin Carter was awesome last night, by the way.
Yeah,
he made a lot of really nice plays.
He's going to be a good player.
Yeah, and then DeMar DeRozan shot 5 threes. Kevin, I love DeMar DeRozan, but we know that is not his game, and he did hit only 2 of them, but that's still 40%. So that was kind of irritating. I think some of the other things that really stood out to me, besides just the brutal defensive play, was fast breaks. Sacramento doubled them. That's not the Cavs, man. That's not the Cavs. During this 3-game losing streak, the Cavs are 24th in the league in pace. They're normally a top 10 pace team in the league. So that was frustrating. I mean, they did out rebound them defensively, which was great. But offensive rebounds, they gave up 6 second chance offensive rebounds to Sacramento, 6 more than they had. So it was a 14-8. So that was frustrating. Like I said, just kind of giving them an extra shot in their possessions. And then, normally Cleveland beats you really bad in points off turnovers. And this has to go with pace. Last night, they were a -8 on points off turnovers. That's not the Cavs we're used to seeing. And it's going to happen. I mean, like, you and I talk about this all the time. The NBA is hard. But that was last night a performance that was really disappointing, because that's normally where Cleveland beats teams, and they got beat in that stretch.
Yeah, that was something I saw as well. The rebounding, you lose the overall rebounding. The Kings were +4, and then they were +6 in the offensive rebounding, and they were playing without their best rebounder in Domantas Sabonis. And so you would have thought going into the game, knowing he was out, the Cavs should have an advantage on the inside, both the boards, points in the paint, things like that. And again, the problem was not offensively, but it is disappointing to get out rebounded by a Kings team that's down Sabonis, and especially to give them so many additional second chance opportunities. I mean, sometimes I think it's a very underrated stat is just total shots in a game, because NBA teams are going to make so many shots. The Kings had 7 more shots than the Cavs did, and they won by 4. I mean, sometimes it can be that simple. They got more opportunities to shoot the basketball, so they made a couple more and they won the game.
Yeah, absolutely. So Kev, I think we can probably put a bow on this one, because I don't think there's much more to talk about on this game, because it was really difficult. I do want to dive a little bit into the 3-game losing streak, and I want to kind of go through the team ratings compared to the season, just to kind of can people see where things are going right now. Now I have a whole list of these, so if you just want to cut me off because I'm being too nerdy, please do. But in the Cavs 3-game losing streak, which again, extremely small sample size, just to kind of people have an idea. Offensive rating, normally throughout the year, they've been number 1. They're on pace to be the best offense potentially ever. 11th. Not terrible, not bad, just not where they normally are. Defensive rating on this season, they're 9th overall. They're 27th right now during this losing streak. Net, they're normally 2nd in the league. Net rating. Right now, they're 23rd. I mentioned it. Pace, they're a top 10 team. 24th right now in pace. Assists, normally a top half team in the league. 27th in assist percentage right now. This is where I'm frustrated. Possessions. They're middle of the pack in the league. You just mentioned it. Shots. They're 25th in the league in possessions right now in this losing streak. Offensive rebound, they're about where they normally are. They're not a great offensive rebounding team. They're middle of the pack. 16th on the losing streak, 17th overall. But defensive rebounding in the 3-game losing streak, they are dead last in the league.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised. The two things I wrote down that have been pretty common in the losing streak are getting out rebounded and getting outshot from three. The 3 games in a row, the other team has made more 3-pointers than the Cavs. The Cavs are one of the best 3-point shooting teams in the league by both percentage and makes per game. And the three teams they played, and I don't mean this in offensive all, they're all bottom of the half of the league in 3-point shooting. Orlando's actually the worst, and they outshot shot them from 3. Clippers and Sacramento are both in the bottom half of the league, and they both made more threes than the Cavs. So again, I'm not in total freak out mode.
Same.
There are a few of you online, and I'd suggest just taking a breath. But it is. 3 games is kind of when it gets a little bit concerning, and I'm almost more concerned because of what their schedule is coming up, and if this losing streak continues against the teams they're about to play, then it makes me more frustrated.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be able to handle a Phoenix Suns loss on Friday. I think that's going to be really annoying to me if it happens. But especially considering they can't guard anybody and they don't want to guard anybody.
Can I put a bow on the 3-point shooting real quick, and then you can go to the next point? Sacramento, 24th in the league. Clippers, 26th in the league. Orlando, 30th in the league. Cavs are 2nd in the league behind only Boston in 3-pointers made per game. They are number 1 in 3-point percentage. So most likely that's an anomaly, a very weird anomaly that they're getting outshot by some of the worst shooting teams in the league. But the fact that it happens 3 games in a row just piques your eyebrow just a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I understand Darius Garland was out last night, but the Cavs are a team that's built on 3-point shooting, consistent pace, extra passes, and that has not been there during this. So like you said, I'm not freaking out per se by any means, but I do think, like you said, the eyebrow has to be raised a little bit there.
Sure.
Yeah. Let's kind of just go through a couple individual players. I know we kind of mentioned a little bit. We mentioned Mobley already and how good he was last night. Probably, up there amongst his best games of the year. Mitchell looked like he was kind of back to himself a little bit shooting wise. Wasn't great from 3, but 8 of 17 from the floor and forcing contact, getting to the line. I think he's really good at understanding like my shots not falling tonight. How can I help the team? Had 4 assists. I thought he was really solid. So you mentioned Dean Wade. I thought he was good. Max Strus, I thought he was good. We got another nice Ty Jerome game, which I think really kind of helped the bench out a little bit more. Didn't hit any threes, but I thought it was 7 for 15, 14 points, 6 assists. Was just a really nice playmaker, kind of kept them going. When they made that run, to kind of take the lead again there in the 4th, with like about 7 or 8 minutes left, I feel like he was pretty good there in that stretch. And then from there, I think it just kind of went away. And I don't know. I mean, kudos to Sacramento. They took advantage, but I feel like this is a bad loss.
I completely agree. And so I thought Ty overall had a decent game last night. I do think he was forcing a little bit, particularly in the second quarter, which is kind of, I don't know. I mean, the Cavs still technically outscored the Kings in the second quarter, but the second quarter was an opportunity to kind of put the game away after having, like, I think they had a 10-point lead at the beginning of the second quarter and kind of let the Kings back into it. Ty Jerome took 13 shots in like, I think 10 or 12 minutes of action in the first half. And that tells me that's not necessarily just indicative of Ty and the way he's playing. It's an indicative of the offense not having flow. When the point guard or the key playmaker is taking that many shots, one of the key reasons could be that there's not very good flow to the offense, and they're kind of having to take a lot of bailout shots and get aggressive with 5 seconds left on the shot clock. So that was just something I kind of noted. I was like, Ty took 13 shots in the first half. That seems like quite a bit.
Yeah, it wasn't pretty. Yeah, thankfully they have a day off. They can kind of catch their breath today. They can relax, and then they can kind of keep this West Coast trip going with a trip to Phoenix, Arizona on Friday. Ty Jerome faces one of his former teams. We're calling this the Larry Nance Senior Bowl. as they head to Phoenix. So they're going to be playing the 33 and 37 Suns, which if you only pay attention to the Cavs, the Suns are, how will we call this politely? A mess, a total mess. It's a team that if you look at them on paper, you're like, man, they're incredibly talented. They're probably a top 4 seed in the West because how the players they have. No, they pissed off Kevin Durant, and it shows. It shows very well when you watch them play.
I love the player Kevin Durant, but isn't this pretty much been the MO of every team he's been on the last 6 or 7 years?
100%. Yeah, basically since he left OKC, this has kind of been the thing.
Yeah.
So like I said, Phoenix is not a very good team. They're 33 and 37. Let me pull up a little bit extra numbers real quick so I can kind of give an idea. Obviously, the last time these teams played, Cleveland took care of business at home by a lot. I don't think Phoenix knew they were playing basketball that day, is what it looked like. And this year, kind of give a big picture. So 22nd in opponents' points per game, 24th in pace, 27th in defensive rating. This is a game where I'm not going to go anymore into this thing where I'm like, well, you should win this game because you're the Cavs. But you feel like this is a game that potentially you have a really good chance at stopping this little slump.
You would hope so. And I'll talk about Phoenix particularly in 1 minute, but I'm kind of looking ahead to the next 4 games. The next 4 games are all against non-playoff teams, not even play-in teams, right?
Yeah.
And it's a perfect chance to get right after a little bit of a skid. And so I'm very much hoping 3-1's fine, but like 3-1, 4-0 stretch here over the next week or so. They don't have any back-to-backs, so that helps a little bit. 3 of the 4 are on the road, but I do think this is a very good get right stretch, beginning with Phoenix, which you're 100% right. They have been a mess all year. It seems like they're leading towards a messy divorce with maybe several other players, including Kevin Durant this summer. And they're a team, they're a 1-2-3 Cancun team right now. They want to get this season over with. So there really is no, assuming everyone's healthy and playing, there's no very good reason that they should lose to Phoenix on Friday night. They should just kind of keep them down while they've been down virtually the whole season.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's just, the Bradley Beal thing, the Kevin Durant thing, the fact that they're like, we're not going to get rid of Devin Booker. It's like, maybe you probably should because your best chance for your team to survive. But hey, that's not our team. We don't have to worry about it. Their center situation is brutal. It's like Nick Richards and not even Yusuf Nurkic anymore.
Right.
They're playing Oso Iguodala a lot of late. Kev, Bol is getting big minutes of late for this team.
Is this his breakout year?
Yeah, finally.
Last 5-6 years have been. They've been a mess the entire season. They're a team grasping at straws. They're literally just throwing, as you said, a couple of players that have never really gotten minutes in their NBA careers or their rookies. They're just throwing them out there to try and see if something can work, right? They took Bradley Beal out of the starting lineup. He's kind of been in and out of that. It is been, Phoenix is probably the biggest mess soap opera team of the year in the NBA. I think they have to be, right? I mean, everybody else that's had a really weird year, it's been because of injuries or other reasons. They've been for the most part healthy and just bad.
Yeah. Bradley Beal like flaunting his no trade clause when he's like, you can try to trade me all you want. It's not happening. It's like, that's as Bradley Beal gets right there. So
it really is. He might be the last player in history to get a no trade clause after.
Yeah. You're right. Well, I know this is a bit of a quicker one, but anything you want to touch on before we roll out today?
No, just again, I think I titled the name on Sunday night, "The Sky is Falling," very tongue in cheek. This kind of happens. Like the Cavs, it's human nature to take your foot off the gas a little bit when you're looking down the barrel of having the number 1 seed locked up, home court advantage. This is very much the slog of the season. While there's some teams that are very much fighting to get in the playoffs or playoff seeding, there's a lot of teams that are either tanking or kind of have they're kind of like in the seed that they're going to be in for the playoffs. So otherwise, I'm not too worried about it. I just want them to get back on track. Especially like I said, these next 4 games, get at least 3 wins in these next 4 games against teams kind of in the bottom of the standings in the NBA, and then right the ship, and then kind of after this 4-game stretch, you'll be down to like the last 9-10 games of the season, and you can really just start like hopefully have the number 1 seed locked up, if not virtually locked up, that you can start like backing guys off, giving more guys some days off, reduced minutes, things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at, I know the reason people are freaking out the most is because while they have a 3-game losing streak, Boston has a 3-game win streak.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, 6 games at this point in the year is still a lot. That is still a big difference. So everything's going to be okay. I know that it's disappointing. I'm disappointed in their performance too. But this is still a very good basketball team. We're still very lucky we get to watch this team play on a day-to-day basis, and it's going to be all right. So I just want to make sure we get that out there. Everyone do their woosah, pop a little yoga in today. I got to do my yoga this morning myself still. And we're all going to be okay. So
I got one last thing before you type it out. Because I want on record since it starts in like an hour. Who you got winning March Madness?
Ooh, I think in our bracket, I did Auburn.
Okay.
I'll be honest, as you know, like I covered college basketball for many years.
Mm-hmm.
I did watch a little bit of the Xavier game last night, so that was cool. I finally got to have a night I could enjoy some basketball that wasn't the Cavs. But I think I went Auburn strictly because Gary Parrish told me to. I'll be honest. This is the least I paid attention this year. How about you?
Yeah, I've done. I always do 2 brackets. I think doing more than 2 is just kind of dilutes it and everything for me. I went with Duke to win it, even though I'm very much a Duke hater, and I don't want to see it happen. But I think I'll be rooting for. I can't believe it. I think I'm going to root for St. John's. It's such a crazy story. Patina's back.
Yeah, man.
With one of the best teams in the country. I'm a victim to the story when it comes to March Madness, and so while I picked Duke, I think St. John's is the team I'm gonna get behind.
Same. Yeah. As you know, I love my Big East schools. So, and I love Rick Pitino. So this is just perfect for me because I don't think Xavier is going to last very long. Mm-hmm. If they beat Illinois, they likely play Kentucky. So Texas win was cool. Nice comeback, but I think that's going to be the end of it. So
yeah.
With that being said, obviously for those of you who did enter our bracket, I know this goes up before we get do the advertising of your last chance to enter. Thank you guys for doing that. It's really cool. We're really excited to be able to interact with you all. Like Kevin said, we're going to do some really cool prizes, including Cavs vs. Bulls tickets is something that we're excited about. So a chance to get you guys those and a few more things for our next placements as well. So as always, we want to go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. I know it was not a great Cavs stretch, but they're going to be okay. Be sure, as always, to check us out on your podcast app of choice. Be sure, as always, to as well subscribe to us on YouTube and like this video if you're watching it there as well. So on behalf of Kevin Lynch and Skylar Webker, I am Tim Daniel. Have a great day. Enjoy March Madness.
Go Cavs.